Hello, your favorite myofunctional therapist here. I had a great question, you guys. I know some of you guys have been with me for years, so I've been teaching you, but many of you guys, lots of new faces here. So I'm super excited that you're here. I wanted to do just kind of a Myo 101 video and talk about what is this? I'm getting so many of you guys sliding into my DMs saying, I'm just now hearing about this and I'm going down this rabbit hole. What in the holy heck is Myo? Why is it important? Or I just went to my doctor, got told I had a tongue tie and I need to do Myo. So help me out here. So I've made some notes here. So first I want to talk about what is it? So my elevator shtick is that myofunctional therapy is like physical therapy for mouth and face muscles, okay? So I work with people who have snoring, sleep apnea concerns, have swallowing, chewing issues, mouth breathing issues. The muscles just don't work right. So open mouth resting posture, low resting tongue, all of these things may totally sound foreign to you, which is fine. You're here, you're watching this. So in my feed, you're gonna find tons of other information. But so I help somebody rehabilitate the oral structures and figure out the root cause of why something is going awry and what we can do about it, okay? Whether that's somebody who's snoring, whether that's somebody who has a lot of digestive issues, whether that's somebody who has a lot of jaw joint issues. I can't tell you the percentage of my business is people who have tongue ties and jaw problems. And the interesting thing is if you know a little bit about anatomy, and this is something that we talk about in an exam, it makes sense why you might have some problems going on here in the jaw, okay? So that's what myofunctional therapy is. So now what? What does that mean? Okay, I've been told that I should do it, but why? I know some of you guys, especially based on cost, have a really hard time wrapping your mind around this. Like, why do I have to do this? Or it's something that my insurance doesn't cover. It's hard for you to find value in it. And I 100% get it, okay? Because I was there before I became a myofunctional therapist. So the reason it's important is because you're doing something incorrect with the muscles. So if you do not fix that, find the root cause, fix that, and correct it, the long-term consequences can be very significant. Snoring is not just annoying, okay? It's bad for you, it's bad for your health, it's bad for the sleep quality for both you and the person who sleeps in your bed, or potentially the person who sleeps in the room next to you, because we all know those people who suck the curtains off the wall when they snore. That's not okay, okay? That's my job, is to educate you that sleep apnea, not sexy, not healthy, not just a little bit of, oh, I have a little bit of sleep apnea. It's something you need to do something about. Whether your doctor seemed concerned about it or not might say something more about your doctor rather than you, okay? So if you're walking with a limp, over time, that's going to be bad for your back. It's going to be bad for your hips. It's going to be bad for your knees. It's going to be bad for your feet and ankles. There's a trickle-down effect. And so there are long-term consequences of ignoring your myofunctional impairments. I always say my clients that are in their 60s, 70s, and early 80s, I always say half are pissed off and half are pissed off, because half of them knew that they had a problem and they didn't do anything about it. So they're really mad at themselves. And the other half are mad that nobody else told them there was a concern, or that their doctor told them that grinding was okay, that they didn't need to do anything about this, or their grinding or their snoring or their apnea. You guys, correcting the problem goes so far beyond a snoring device. When I was still in dentistry, and this is the reason I'm not still in dentistry, is because many of the practices that I worked in, they would sell you a grinding appliance. You guys, doesn't stop the crime. It just records it. They would sell you a snoring appliance. Many of the doctors that I worked with, they never followed up on it. In fact, most of them totally would forget that Joe Blow has a grinding appliance. They would forget that Joe Blow has a snoring device until me as the hygienist or somebody else brought it up, okay? So that's the biggest thing. So just because your doctor is not telling you that this is a concern, that's why I'm here, okay? So there are long-term consequences. It's also very hard for parents, I understand, for you to wrap your mind around this also, because we are taught to just love our babies as they are. And so we just look at Johnny like he's got some quirks. Maybe his teeth are coming in, stacked on top of each other. There's a lot of crowding. We assume that he's got daddy's teeth, that kind of stuff. But insufficient craniofacial development in a child where we have a chance to make a big change is huge. And that's what's hard for parents, because all you see is dollar signs and all you see is one more thing. All you see is one more thing that's wrong with your child. And I have a lot of parents that are like, oh, hell no, I am not telling my kid something's wrong with them. I am not going to let them think that they're different. I have a kiddo who already has to do vision therapy or speech therapy, different kinds of things. I am not adding to their plate. But there are long-term consequences of that. So, and I help you digest some of that information, because some of you guys just, especially you get into a Facebook group and you've got a whole ton of people that are just throwing opinions at you. I help you sort through some of that stuff. So do not beat yourself up over it. Once you get this information and there's a concern, we take step-by-step things. We chop that elephant into pieces, because I've been in those Facebook groups where people are just throwing opinions at you. They don't have a background to be telling you that. They're telling you an anecdotal story. They're telling you their opinion. And a lot of those people, they just don't have the background. So when I meet mamas, they're just in tears because they feel so overwhelmed, okay? So don't worry about that. Don't beat yourself up over it, because I help you work through all of that stuff. So I've talked about what myo is. I've talked about why it's important. So who needs it? Anybody with orofacial myofunctional disorders. What is that, right? So the goals of myofunctional therapy are pretty simple. I work on tongue posture, I work on mouth posture, I work on nasal breathing, swallow, correct, and normalize. And then of course, our end goal is that we transform everything that I have taught you. We transform those into new habits and retained behavior patterns. So that really is the meat and potatoes. That's the important stuff. I can teach you stuff till the cows come home, but if you don't have any self-awareness, if you don't have any motivation, if you're not doing any follow-through, you're going to kind of bottom out and spin your wheels, okay? So that's who needs it. If you breathe through your nose, awesome. You're doing one thing right, because mouth breathing is one of the most unhealthy habits. However, just because you're nasal breathing, but you have a tongue tie, your untreated tongue tie is very much a concern, because I know that you can't swallow correct, whether you realize it or not. You just don't know any different, okay? Because when your tongue is tied down, it also can't function correctly in the movement that we want it to. Your tongue needs to be making a lingual palatal seal all the way across the roof of the mouth, all the way to the soft palate. So if you have a tongue tie and you think that it's no big deal, your tongue posture can't comfortably be correct. Your mouth posture may or may not be correct. But if your mouth is open, your lips are unsealed, if you're mouth breathing, if you have a tongue tie that's untreated, your posture is being affected. And when that happens, even if you're nasal breathing and you're rolled forward, you guys, I know you're not breathing correctly because your diaphragm is compressed. So when you have your restriction taken care of, you can sit upright. Your ears can be over your shoulders. You can have good posture. Trust me, your chiropractor is going to notice a difference. We're going to help that forward head posture, but we're going to also open up your rib cage. And you're going to be able to breathe easier with your diaphragm, which makes digestion easier, and you breathe better and efficient, and you get better oxygenated. Okay, so everybody needs some of that. And so really, I have a lot of clients who have maybe one or two of those things. I don't necessarily only work with people who need all four, but the process is still very much the same for those people. So that's who needs myofunctional therapy. Okay, and at risk of getting this video too long, let's talk about how you get started. So I wholeheartedly feel you start with somebody like me, whether it's me or whether it's some other myofunctional therapist. Find somebody you know, like, and trust. Find somebody who is experienced. You guys, just because somebody has the education doesn't necessarily mean that they have the experience to work with your case. So sorry you're hearing Yukon barking in the background. Looks like UPS is coming. So find your human, okay? And then let that person help you. So that's what I do. I help educate you. I tell people that by the time I'm done with your exam, my job is not done until you have no questions, until you can validate why you have a concern. You can validate why you need myofunctional therapy. You guys, I just educate, and then I help you understand the need. I don't sell you anything. You have to want optimum health for you. And I know a lot of people look at their tongue, they look at their breathing, they look at how they chew and swallow. They're not starving, they're doing fine. That might be okay now, but when they're that 60 or 70-year-old, that chewing and swallowing is really, really important. So it's my job to help answer your questions, help validate your concerns, help you identify your goals for therapy, you know, where we are right now, how we're going to get there, where you want to get to, that kind of stuff. And then I help you I help you build your roadmap. I'm the tour guide. So sometimes I'm not the first stop. Sometimes I do an assessment with somebody and I say, hey dude, you can't breathe through your nostrils. We need an ENT. We might need an allergist. Sometimes we need a dietitian or a nutritionist to help you work through food sensitivities, inflammatory diets, that kind of stuff. We sometimes need frenectomy provider. Sometimes we need airway ortho. Sometimes we need a sleep specialist, physical therapy, body workers, that kind of stuff. So it's a whole lot of crap. I get it. And so I help you with that. I help you with understanding what we need to do first. Do we need to start with myofunctional therapy? Do we need to prep for a tongue tie release? Do we need to see an orthodontist first? Do we need a sleep study? All of that stuff. You don't just go to the doctor and say, hey, I need a knee replacement. They do some other steps ahead of that, and that's exactly what I do. So I hope that is a good introduction to what myofunctional therapy is, you know, kind of the 101 version. You guys, every Friday I post resources. If you can look in my profile, if you're on Instagram, if you're on my on my Facebook pages, on my website, everywhere that you find information from me, you're going to find my ultimate guide to tongue ties, my ultimate guide to sleep disordered breathing, myofunctional therapy. What else? There's several of them, but there's also the getting started guide, which is really helpful. Or you can just make things easy. You can schedule a complimentary assessment with me. You can jump right into the exam, completely up to you. Everybody needs an exam. I just like that complimentary visit to be able to get to know you, understand what your goals are, what you want to gain, and to see if I'm the human to help you. I'm a firm believer in personality match. If our personalities are like oil and water, it's going to really be a struggle. So that's the nice thing about doing that complimentary visit. However, I know that those are limited and they're booked out quite far in advance. So some people, if they're in a time crunch, they want to just fast forward and get right into that exam so they can get going, okay? And so if that's you, if you're wanting to do a tongue tie release in the next month or two, you just want to get your exam done, okay? So DM me if you have questions. This is where I get great topics to do these question and answers for you. I hope that was helpful. If it was, you can give me a high five and I will see you next time where I will be answering another important question for you. See you then.